I was in and out of psychologist's office, psychiatrist's office, therapist, counselors, you name it, I was there. I hated myself. Why did this have to happen to me? A big thing for me was I turned to drugs for the solution. That was my solution for a long time. In 2011, I found out I was pregnant, and I was off of all my medication for my depression. And it was bad. At 6 months pregnant, I decided to relapse on drugs. I hated myself for it. I found myself at 6 months pregnant smoking crack and smoking pills for 4 days. Guess what? The hospitals, the Baker Act facilities would not take me because I was pregnant and I was a liability. So I found one facility that would take me, Wellington Retreat, and gave me a chance. I had my child. She came out perfectly well. She's my miracle child. You know, I don't know what I would do without her and what I would do without the doctor that helped me have this. You don't have to suffer from it. You don't.
I think I was the first one that started saying something was wrong with me because I knew I wasn't feeling okay. Eventually they diagnosed me as being bipolar, and they put me on mood stabilizers, and that started helping. They added paranoid schizophrenia to my diagnosis. I was lucky in high school to have two teachers that kind of understood me, and it was like a safe place to go to whenever I was having like a manic episode or something. I would hang out in their classroom and they'd let me like sit quietly and write. And that's where most of my songwriting came from. Was if I had a manic episode, I would go in the classroom in the corner and just start writing. It's okay to have a mental illness. There's nothing wrong with you if you have one.
He was my, male father figure growing up, but he was schizophrenic and battled that all through his life. He spent hours writing on pieces of paper. He spent hours writing in a journal. He'd spend hours just with his own thoughts. And I knew that he'd probably prefer to be out doing something else, but he was really trapped in his own mind. My mom died about a little less than a year before he did. I knew that once she was gone, there were, problems were coming. He went from one hospital to a mental hospital to a facility, back into the hospital, and all of those steps along the way, I felt like nobody was listening to what I was saying, which was, look, this man has a 50+ documented history of schizophrenia. That's what needs to be treated. And it was like, oh, he has dementia. No, he doesn't have dementia. He knows where he is, but he's having visions. That's not dementia. And, I expected better out of healthcare professionals than what I got. Mentally, he never engaged in taking care of himself. And although there was physically nothing wrong with him, he had a good heart and lungs and everything else, he basically just wasted away.
Well, mine and my dad's journey started when I was about 12. He was heavily into illegal drugs, and he went to jail. We finally figured out that he's bipolar, schizoaffective, and he has PTSD. So Not only does he have one, he has three, and they all combine together to make a very interesting life. Maybe we're not as widely advertised as we think we are. You know, people may not know about Jerome Goldman Center or about the Crisis Center, you know, about the mobile unit where if you feel like you're in crisis, you can call and they'll come pick you up. You know, people don't know about those things. And I think maybe that's something we need to work on as a whole community, is making sure people realize where they can go to get help.
I've met young people who were diagnosed with schizophrenia as young as 12 and 13, and almost always one parent leaves. I saw all the issues that are involved with somebody trying to fit into a space in this world when everything in their head fought them. In 2009, my grandson was set on fire by 3 of his friends. And it was an attack. There was no warning.
The little boy just caught on fire and he jumped inside of the swimming pool. Sweetie, how did this happen?
Just one day after his 15th birthday, Michael Brewer was set on fire by kids he called friends, bullies who'd been threatening him, claiming he owed $40 for a video game. One doused him with rubbing alcohol, another had a lighter.
So it led me on this road to understand why, as human beings, why with all the same flaws, the same faults, the same problems, the same issues, and the same needs, we can't be good to each other. In the past 5 to 10 years, we've had lots of horrendous actions on the part of young people who were screaming for help, and nobody listened. And if they did listen, they didn't know what to do. That breaks my heart.
I got into trouble. I got with the wrong people. I got with drugs. Unfortunately, the only person I hurt was myself. I couldn't do anything but stay in bed and cry. I didn't want to have anything to do with really anybody else, and I kept pushing my husband aside. Thank God he has stuck with me for over 18 years and has proved to me every day how much he loves me. I don't think that I would have gotten help or looked for some sort of help if it wasn't for him. I want people to know that there is help out there. That just because you have a mental illness does not make you any less of a person. You can work through these things. You can still be the best you can.
I'm the parent of a young man who has schizophrenia, who developed schizophrenia when he was 5 years old. The problem was it took us 2 or 3 years before we could convince people that he had a need for special education. So when Tim was 12, he began to self-medicate. And so what happened to Tim at a very early age was that he began to have involvement with the juvenile justice and criminal justice systems. And from the time he was 19 years old to today, he has essentially been in the revolving door of homelessness, occasional hospitalization, and frequent incarceration, usually for minor things, usually for probation violations. But from month to month these days, their times go by when we have no idea where Tim is. We have no idea what Tim is doing. We need to understand that these are chronic diseases that can take 25 years or more off people's lives, which make them as serious as cancers, make them as serious as heart diseases, and make them as important to attack in an integrated, holistic way as any other chronic disease in America. It's not all our faults. It's our responsibility. The solution to all of this is our joint and collective responsibility.